The Uncontrollables. Outrageous? Sometimes. Thoughtful? Maybe. Offensive? Probably. Fabulous? Always. Alrighty. I don't think we're...
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
No. Don't sing another fucking goddamn intro.
Welcome.
You already ruined it. The whole thing's ruined.
To the
I quit. I don't want to be here anymore.
Uncontrollables.
Okay, so we're back to normal music for our
Is this
intro.
on?
Josh is no longer singing. I might just turn off his mic or shoot him. I don't know. This is episode 17 of The Uncontrollables. We've made it this far. We haven't been canceled after episode 15 and 16 being... how would you classify them, Josh?
I don't know, but a couple things that I've seen old Gary posted, Indiana Talks makes me think that perhaps we're teetering on the ledge of either getting told to back the F down or just not come back to work tomorrow.
Well, I mean, he did point out that we did kind of alienate the entire Christian population.
Evangelicals.
Yeah, and he spelled it wrong.
I think that was the first Bank of Christianity thing.
That might have been what the issue was.
Right. Sorry about that. We obviously didn't realize that it was in fact the second Bank of Christianity that was our sponsor. So we apologize to anyone we've offended.
Yeah, the second bank.
Right.
And we also broke the PG-13 rating. But I think we pretty much did that like the third episode.
You
didn't
dropped.
we?
Well, I'm not even going to say that, but you know what you did.
I dropped a couple things I shouldn't have, and I didn't edit as well as
We
I
do.
should
We
have.
do push PG-13.
You know what? We're not technically on this show under FCC guidelines as far as my understanding goes, but we try to keep it at least somewhat, family friendly.
No, we don't.
No, because
Gary tries to keep us somewhat
because
family friendly.
your girlfriend or life partner or your male lover,
Yes, whatever his hurt,
whatever, Jennifer. No, it starts Jessica Hoyt, Hoyt.
Oh, that's it. Yes,
She actually made her family listen to episode 15, where I kind of went on rants and we need to tear apart the government and so on
they
and so
listened
forth.
to 16 too while they were on family vacay in Jersey.
Well, no, I think it was 15 that she had them listen to, or I don't know which one it was.
No, they listened live Tuesday night.
Oh, okay, so they did listen to 16.
They listened to 16.
God,
Yeah.
that one was horrible, and I guess it started the family feud.
Well, her dad's a pastor. But let's be careful in case they listen to episode 17. We definitely don't want anyone disowned. We heard that Jessica and the kids had a great time.
If
Thanks
Jessica,
for
if
harboring
Mr.
them.
Hoyt has a problem with the show, I would love for him to call in and be a guest. I will tear him a new ass.
I'm going to go ahead and do what's best for me now and encourage us to change topics.
So, speaking of pastors.
Yes. Pastors.
Huh?
Yes.
Yeah. So, this organization, I'm sure everyone's probably heard about it at some point in time or another, is Exodus International. And it's one of the
organization.
ex-gay organizations. and
Huge
so on and so
organization. One of
forth.
the oldest and one of the largest
40 years running.
pray the gay away organizations in the whole world.
And they've been a giant pile of shit for as long as they've been around. Now,
They've been one of those groups that is just about as hardcore right wing, burning in the flames of hell because you ever considered thinking about the same sex.
One step away from being Muslims beheading people in the street.
Right. They were evil.
I wouldn't call them evil. That would, acknowledge that there was an opposite of that. There is no opposite of whatever they were. It's just pure retardation. So one of the newer heads of the organization released a apology to the entire LGBT community and apologizing for some of the actions, and we'll read some quotes from that here in a second. But then the next day, he pretty much dissolved Exodus International.
Right.
It is no longer.
The board of directors got together and voted to completely disorganize the group, I guess.
Dissolve.
Dissolve the group.
Some quotes from this giant, very, very long, extended apology. He originally did one on some talk show with somebody. I don't know. I think somebody Ling or Lang or Lisa Ling. I don't know who that is, but
Wasn't she a porn star? That sounds very
that's
porn.
Racist.
That sounds porn
That's
star.
racist or sexist. She's on The View.
She's on The View. So yes to the porn star then.
Yes.
We have a studio audience tonight, by the way.
Yeah, we do have a studio audience. Some more libertarians, and they're giggling uncontrollably at this
Right.
show. The Uncontrollables. I don't think they're laughing because it's funny. I think they're laughing because they know it's sad.
Right. They're sitting in the other room going, "Oh my God, people go out of their way to
I think
listen
they're
to this."
watching hockey on mute.
Hey.
Are you watching hockey from right there?
I am
Switch me seats.
Negative, Ghost Rider.
Okay, let's get back to this point. But one of the little paragraphs I really liked out of this apology, and he's going through saying, he's sorry that he didn't do better as a person and treat other people like human beings. But quote, more than anything, I am sorry that so many have interpreted this religious rejection by Christians as God's rejection. And that really stands out where he's pulling apart faith and religion, which is always one of my big, soapbox points, is that there's a big difference between faith and religion, that religious people aren't necessarily faith-driven people.
Very true. And you can have a very specific faith. You can have a Christian faith, but not be a person of a Christian religion.
Right. And he basically comes out and says that I am profoundly sorry that many have walked away from their faith and that some have chosen to end their lives. And that kind of pushes that, this organization helped many people get pushed to the boundaries of suicide and commit suicide. That they were, they thought because that they were homosexuals or had, they were, I guess, a little bit different sexually, that they weren't ever going to get into heaven and that they're going to burn in hell and everything else. This guy's basically saying that's not true. God's arms are very wide and he's going to let everybody in. That, that isn't obviously a worthless piece of shit like, say, everyone that worked for Exodus International, but, or the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, or in politics, or that vote.
And I don't know what quotes you were going to go at, but there's two quotes in particular that stood out to me. So the first quote, this guy's talking and, says that, for the better part of 10 years, he's been an advocate and a spokesperson for what's known as the ex-gay movement. And at the time, he believed, he said that while many things changed during that period in his life, his sexual orientation did not. So he admitted that the entire time that he claimed he was ex-gay, that he, in fact, was still a homosexual and was just refusing to say it out loud, which is an interesting quote, basically saying that, the therapy that I stood by for decades does not work.
And it's harmful.
And that was the next quote I was going to get to. Today, I do not consider myself ex-gay. I no longer support or promote the movement. Please allow me to be clear. I do not believe that reparative therapy changes sexual orientation. In fact, it does great harm to many people. I mean, this guy took this, not only this organization, but everything he's stood for, everything his life has been for a long time, and just threw it under the bus and said it's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, and it is.
It is a bunch of bullshit. Yeah.
Well,
but I give for all the evils that this guy's done, I give him a lot of credit because his friendships, his family, everything that his life has been for a long time now, he, not quite to a Snowden level where he's never going to be able to come back to America again or see his friends or family, but in a similar way, all his friends and family, he just basically said,
a vast majority
I'm going
of the
to be done with you.
Religious side of people will no longer deal with him. He's a traitor.
Right. Everything this guy has known in his life for years and years now, he is just thrown out the door, and that's not an easy thing to do.
And then he can't reach out and really, his apology is going to be taken with a grain of salt with the LGBT community because he's been bastardizing it for so long.
Right. And you read the actual apology. I didn't get to read the entire apology. I just saw quotes from it.
But he speaks about his own sexuality and his own feelings he's denied for so long and how he was lying and perpetrating on top of that lie that's how he pushed the organization.
I've had a couple people tell me, both members of the LGBT community, that have read the apology, that they honestly felt that it was true, heartfelt apology. How about you now that you've read it? What do you think?
The way he words things and the things he says in there, that's not just an apology and then the day after dissolving the organization. That apology was backed up with action.
Right.
No, people should fully forgive him.
Absolutely.
On both sides, especially the so-called Christian side, should forgive him for whatever they think he did by wronging them. Now,
what this guy did, it was pretty powerful what he did. It was an important move. It was a difficult move,
and it was a shock to it's not necessarily. I don't want to say it's a win for one side or a loss for the other, but it really kind of kicked the whole ex-gay and pray away the gay thing right in the nuts. Was the leader of that type
This is the kind of thing that not only was it a little bit unexpected, even though the apology had come out, but this is the kind of thing that was hitting news sites and Drudge and a bunch of websites as breaking news because, well, not that everything isn't breaking news, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, it was actually considered to be an important news story when it first came out, and it's the kind of thing it did. It kind of shocked the world. I think that this kind of is a win for one side. I think this is a win for the LGBT community, that such a large, powerful organization that has stood against them has said, no, we're sorry, we were wrong, and we are going to go away.
I don't want us to call it a win yet. Let's see what the backlash is. This might, sadly, the LGBT community might end up using this to attack more people and get a little bit more aggressive with things in the wrong way, which I've seen them do before. They get this little tiny win or they see an opening, and then they go wholesale crazy balls on people.
Well, name especially when there's a topic that is very large and important with pretty much any group, especially religious or political groups. Name a movement that doesn't have those wackos that go too far. You know what? I don't care if you want to be pro-life, but if you are killing abortion doctors, you've gone too far. Right?
No, I'm not trying to collectivize the entire movement, but because if the most vocal parts of the LGBT community come out and attack things, the other side will be emboldened, and there's more of them and more money on that side of the fence, sadly, for now anyways. Now, kind of interesting talking about this is I went to, for the first time, there's a local support group called, there's Indie Girls and Indie Boys, and it's a local transgender support group. And I'd never been before. I heard about it, but I always miss it. It's on a particular day in a month and blah, 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 blah. It's always hard to get to. Well,
let's spend a few minutes talking about that. That's interesting. I didn't know you did this. Let's talk about that.
So I went up there today. It was, from 3 to 5 or whatever, and it was really hard to find. I got lost, and it's not exactly the best part of town, but, it's good. It's at a church.
Okay.
The church openly gives space to this group, and I guess some of the members of this church are really active with the trans community and the LGBT community, which is interesting. I'm not going to name specifics on all this
Probably
stuff because,
best.
There's privacy issues and stuff. I'm sure, you could freaking Google it and find out, but just know I'm going to start going, and I do carry a really big gun, and I'm violent, so don't do anything stupid, but I have no problem in killing everyone. They're doing introductions and everything else, and then we kind of break off to groups. The transgender guys go to one side or to one room, and the transgender girls go to the other room. And
transgender girls, you're talking about like you.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
not sure where in the transition you were talking.
Yeah, male to female and female to male.
Okay.
So a trans guy is female to male, and then vice versa.
Gotcha.
And so I'm talking to this group, and they have a lot of issues, and there's some court issues going on with custody battles, and people talk about homosexual couples and everything. And they talk about, homosexual couples having issues with adoption and parental rights and everything else. Well, the trans community is a very interesting one because if you're married to somebody and you have kids and then you transition, you get the whole surgery and everything, and you switch your gender markers and everything else, and to the government, you're now female. That's kind of messed up because technically, like in Arizona, there's that guy, the pregnant dude that they had on talk shows and stuff or whatever, it was a female to male transition.
Okay.
Well, they wanted to get divorced, him and his wife. Well, they were still considered a same-sex marriage. They couldn't get divorced. And things changed and everything else. And that was really interesting. And then, so it brings up the issue of, you've got the LGBT community that are fighting for equal rights and marriage rights. The trans community is left out on every level.
Well, you're right. You are.
Because it's a very different situation.
I would say at every level, but you are a level that when most of, I think, society looks at LGBT, they think specifically homosexual men and lesbian women. They don't think about
think sexuality.
They don't think about BT, especially T.
Oh yeah, and like I said, they focus on sexuality. They don't realize, and I'm still at odds with the LGBT. I think it's I usually say LGBT-T depending on where I'm at because it's kind of insulting, but because it is true because a lot of bills have not been passed or been changed because they have to take out the T part. But with the marriage thing is technically if me and Emily got married and I go and I fully transition or whatever, and I change my gender markers and all that stuff, our marriage is no longer valid.
Right.
And if we had kids,
I guess if you ever wanted divorced.
Yes. Could we get divorced? In Arizona, they
Go ahead
basically
and
said,
just go ahead and push it. And you're like, now we're not married anymore anyway.
yeah, I mean, down there, they're like, you can't get divorced. And so it's a really interesting thing.
That's jacked up. So they can't get divorced because their marriage wasn't recognized, even though that they were married.
Well, no, remember, it was, what was it? It's a really interesting, I'd have to really dig into it. It happened a while back. But they got married as a same-sex couple, and then they no longer have same-sex marriages, so now they can't get divorced. But with trans people, there's a really weird issue. Even if they did have same-sex marriages in some states and here and there or whatever, some of the stipulations don't reach out to trans people or to change of gender. So it's really odd, and there's a lot of stuff there. But listening to these people and talking
So tell me
them,
about all right, so before you get to talking to the people, let's talk about, it's a support group, not a find a cure group.
No,
It's not AA.
It's just share your stories, just building community, being with
Sure.
other like-minded, like-kinded people.
Right, like a cancer support group, except you don't have a disease.
Yeah.
Maybe that was a bad comparison, but
Yeah,
I'm just trying to come up with the idea of the room. Everyone's there to lift each other up.
Yeah. It's yeah. So but there's a lot of issues, and so they introduce everybody, and everyone shares any big things going on or anything they just want to share with the group, and then we move off and split into groups, and we just kind of just sit around and just start chit chatting to people.
So there's no, I'm Maya, and
Well, we introduce ourselves, and
how do you just say I'm Maya?
no, what they do is they have tell us your introduce you with your name, what pronouns you prefer, just lighthearted, good fun stuff.
Let me ask you a question, because you're particular about your pronouns, although I screw it up a lot. You're a she.
Yeah.
Where do most of the trans community stand?
Some of them don't care, and that's kind of the truth. A lot of people. I mean, I honestly don't care, but because I'm a social terrorist. But for the most part, I'd prefer one way because it makes for less social awkwardness.
Sure.
And it kind of points out, and I see it as a level of respect. So
Right.
people that try to be, respectful. It's not like a requirement I have, but it's respectful. And I can always point out, I always know, because you can tell in tone and body language and everything else, if people are using pronouns as an insult.
Right.
And that's what pisses me off. But most people, however they appear. I mean, you
So
can
it doesn't
tell,
matter if someone calls you she, if they're like, well, Maya, she insisted.
Yeah, well, like Andrew Kirch does that to me all the time. He's like, quote unquote, and he's calling me, there's like these third pronouns they use, like ZIR, Zer, and there's some other Z.
Who's they?
The interwebs.
Okay, so you're talking about people that are not supporting you.
Well, no. There are people out there saying we should create third tier pronouns, in a positive light for the trans community. But whatever. So just I don't want to harp on this forever, but going with this, just talk to people, listen to people talk about things, everything else. And there's a lot of negative news, and people have an issue with their families. And so I brought up Stefan Molinex and defooing, and they all wrote that down, and they're going to Google it. And I'm like, yes. I'm pretty
Did
sure
you
most
bring
of
up
them
the
were...
Uncontrollables by chance?
No.
Did you bring up creating Maya?
Hold on. Yep.
Okay.
So they were all, I'm like, well, you guys want some good news? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, I can save you all a bunch of money on your car insurance. I meant, no, laser hair removal. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, what's their name? What's the website? And I was like, well, here, just go to my website. It's on there. It's on supported partners, I think. I just redid the website, so I don't know. And I handed her my card, or I tossed it down a table, and a lot of them saw it, and they're like, wait, you're Maya? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like the Maya from Creating Maya. I'm like, yeah. And
No
like,
kidding.
And like 4 of them, there's like, I think like 16 people in the room, like 3 of them pull out cards. They already had them.
That's pretty cool.
So my
That's
cards
pretty
have
cool. You
been
got a similar
circulating.
response at Pride. You had people coming up to you had never met in your life coming up to you and recognizing you from Creating Maya.
Yeah.
That's
So
pretty cool.
It's kind of nice. So I handed out more of my cards, and I
Good
made a little
job.
bit more connections. I was selling things. I was like, hey, you guys want to contribute to the website? I don't know, how that's going to go, but whatever. And so it was definitely interesting. It was kind of neat because the trans community is not really huge here, and it's not really
This is I'll tell you what, I'm impressed as Bible Belt as Indianapolis is, as Indiana is. Indianapolis is a little bit better than the rest of the state because most of the state's pretty rural and just doesn't have the openness. But even for Indianapolis, I'm pretty impressed with the progress that's been made over the last handful of years in particular. But you're right.
It's not bad, and I know there's
a bigger gap for you to, or a bigger hurdle for you to overcome than than a typical gay person.
Right, and it's a lot different because there's so many. The transgender label's huge. It's a massive umbrella. There's a lot of terms under it, and so it was kind of neat running into so many people at different levels and different areas of the term. And there was people there with their significant others too, so it was nice to see supporting siblings.
Emily, get to go?
No, she was working, and I wouldn't bring her along anyway because she just sit there and be quiet, and people would think it was awkward because she wouldn't say anything. Right. She would just laugh and giggle and just sit there and listen because that's what Emily
does. You could make her put a gun in her boobs.
Well, I wasn't going to carry a gun in the church. I left it out in the car. I was going to be respectful.
You could make her put a cigarette lighter gun in her boobs.
She might get a fine.
Bad time for that transition.
60,000.
We'll come back to that transition later.
So speaking of that, and I was thinking, I just read an article on Drudge talking about how there's a new report saying that 70% of the population is on some sort of pharmaceutical.
I'm not surprised by that at all.
And I take 3. I have 3 prescriptions, but they're all hormones. I've never had antidepressants. I've never taken painkillers. I've never taken antibiotics, anything. But most of the people I know do. I mean, what you're on too yourself, right?
I got a couple scripts.
You know what's cool about antidepressants is they say it helps balance out your brain chemistry. But did you know there is no way known to humankind to truly measure brain chemistry when it comes to emotions and happiness?
Well,
it's a scary number to say 70% of the Americans take prescription drugs. I see prescription drugs as the extreme. I'd say when I have issues with mood, I can attribute 90% of it to my diet. Maybe lack of exercise. People are unhealthy. People don't. You think eating all that sodium, MSG, and everything else?
I'll tell you what. Right now, I'm on blood pressure medicine, and if I ate better and exercised better, I guarantee I could come off of it. If I could lose most of my excess weight, if I spend a little bit more time at the gym.
What we did with prescription drugs is we basically can be lazy, worthless people, unhealthy people, and just make it by with prescriptions, but we don't realize what that's doing to us. I mean, I
agree. In many cases,
the health
that's
effects
absolutely the
of
case.
Everything else, and then antidepressants. Think of how many kids I remember my biological birth giver and my step thing that married that thing. They wanted to put me on Prozac as a kid.
Oh, holy hell!
Because they took me from an
What age of a kid?
I was in 5th grade.
Holy mackerel.
They took me from 4th grade from school I'd been, 1st to 4th, and they abruptly moved me out to the middle of Kennard, Indiana, a school with 105 kids total, a 6th grade school, 105 kids, and they abruptly moved me out there, and they wondered why I was kind of depressed and sad. So they took me to a psychiatrist who are all a bunch of defunct morons. And we're like, this kid needs Prozac. I never actually took any. They thought I was taking them for 2 months, but I never did. I even knew back then as a young one that pills are bad. They taught me in school pills are bad, and I kind of took their word for it. But we
You're
don't
right.
really.
It's laziness.
The developing brain,
and not in all cases.
It dicks with the receptors. It dicks with hormone levels. It dicks with different glands and everything else. And we're pumping this into kids, expecting it not to have adverse side effects when they get older. We're kind of seeing it. Look at my generation, the generation before mine. They are messed up.
Yeah. And I spent a little bit of time.
Think about Holmes and the other little bastard at the Sandy school shooting.
Yep.
Meds. Lots of meds.
Yep. And I don't understand, I don't want the right answer. Here's the problem. The problem isn't prescribing the meds to young people. It's the massive overprescribing of meds, especially when it comes to ADD and ADHD. Okay. And I could, and really from experiences I've had talking to other people, I feel like that's the norm out there. If you just tell a doctor, I want to go on them, they're going to prescribe them to you. That's a little much. Same thing with ADD and ADHD drugs. It is.
You can walk in. Bam, done.
They just tell, it's like any kid that's a little, I feel like the doctors are prescribing these medicine now the way parents will give a kid a shot of NyQuil if they're being really rambunctious just to calm them down so the parents feel better about it.
Well, and then another thing is you can walk in there. I could walk in right now in any doctor's office pretty much and get painkillers. I get opiates. You know how long it took me to get hormones?
Oh, God.
6 months. I had to go through 6 months of therapy, get a letter of approval, go in, see an endocrinologist, get blood work done, then they prescribe it, and then then I have to keep getting blood work, and they keep changing the prescription based on my blood work. That's hormones. Now, there's many side effects to hormones. I could have a heart attack, drop dead, blood clots, liver damage, because, I'm taking 3 prescriptions a day. So
if you start shooting, the second you feel the heart clenching, pull out the gun and you'll start bam, bam, bam.
That's what I had to get through to get that. To get hormones. They're not super dangerous. Now, that's why you have blood work, and that makes sense. The system's not horrible. I was originally opposed to the system. I bought them online illegally from the UK.
And that didn't go so well for you.
No, because
Share that experience.
I didn't time the shipments right because it took 2 to 3 weeks. I didn't ship them. I didn't get the shipments right. I was screwed up those. I was forgetting to take them. And so my levels were insane. I was all over the freaking place. Holy crap. And then I abruptly stopped taking them because I was going to go to therapy. So I wanted to be, that was a very, very scary time for many, many people.
Right.
You move into simple things like, say, Viagra and what's the other one? Cymbalta or whatever, that, the penis pills.
Cialis. Cymbalta's
there's a billion
something else.
Freaking drugs.
It may
out there.
be a penis pill.
Now, you know what they do, right? They increase blood flow and they expand out the capillaries. You know what happens when you keep doing that?
You ejaculate?
No. The capillaries, your blood vessels, good part of your blood system, they don't retreat. So they stay open.
So it's like a pair of old underwear. It's like the first few times the elastic comes right back, but after a while, they're just kind of flimsy around the edges now.
That's it's increasing blood flow in your entire body, straining your heart, your blood vessels, all your internal organs, your muscles, everything is being stressed. And that's why I say if you have an erection for more than 4 hours, that means your shit's not shutting off. And it's not just in your nether regions. It's everywhere is on super duper mode. Now think of what that's doing to you. You
super duper mode.
I'm horrible with medical terms. I'm just going here. But you think high blood pressure.
Honey, come here.
It's
on super duper mode. Get in here, ride this thing.
I don't have the studies in front of me, but they're showing a correlation between people taking erectile dysfunction medicine and then having to take blood pressure medication because of the erectile dysfunction medication. Now, you wonder why. You know who mainly takes that? It's people with poor diet because their blood system, their blood pressure screwed up, everything else because they eat a poor diet, or their wife's fat and ugly, or they're 200 pounds overweight and they haven't seen their penis in 5 years. Once you get that fat, shit stops working. Now, and so they take this shit and it's destroying their body. They're starting to show stuff that people have been taking this stuff for 2 years plus are having major issues. Their hearts are worn out. They're 40, 50 years old and they've got a heart of somebody that's 65. And so that's prescription. I mean, you can walk in anywhere and you can get that shit, basically just call in and order over the phone. And then kids are taking that shit as party favors and stuff and just for shits and giggles. I mean, what Queer as Folk, they were talking about taking it nonstop.
Right. Snorting it.
And then, so that leads to a bunch of problems. Then you've got antibiotics, which people take when they get the sniffles. Well, you got an immune system, right?
Right.
You can work that out, right? You can, go to the gym with your immune system on stuff. Well, antibiotics change it. So, there's staph infection, which is a nasty little flesh-eating bacteria. But there's MRSA, which is the antibiotic-resistant version. Right. Now, the thing is that staph is bad. MRSA is god-awful. And not just because it's resistant, because it's a super strain that's been bred from using antibiotics. Same thing that there's super flu bugs out there now because of the flu shot. We're breeding bad bacteria and viruses.
Well, and being immune or being absent from different viruses or bacteria is the kind of thing that may be good in the short term, but you have to wonder if one of these days one of these things is going to pop back up. It's been gone for years. Like they say, the polio epidemic. You know how they say that started?
What?
Indoor plumbing. Because polio was a disease that was naturally carried in feces. So when everyone went to an outhouse all the time and that stuff was just there, they were always throughout their entire life exposed to small amounts of polio. And then indoor plumbing came around, and all of a sudden that small exposure went away. And so then when they did get it, they got sick as hell.
That was a mixture, though, because they had indoor plumbing and other stuff. So that was a mixture. It's kind of a societal thing. You know, when you go overseas, if you're going to certain countries, they have these like lists of shots you should get. You should get and things you should. Mexicans can drink Mexican water. We go down there, we're going to be shitting our brains out. What is it? Montezuma's Revenge. It's kind of like that. It's like, okay, in the military, there was a lot of people that got really sick all the time. Because if you're from Indiana, you're used to dealing with pollen here. You go down there, there's still plants, some places, it's the desert, but you're gonna get really messed up off that because it's a different pollen. So there's things like that. Well, and here living in Indiana, in these older homes, if you have like old basements and you have old barns and stuff, you hit mice and the hay fever stuff and all the crap that mice poop, owl poop, bird poop. Mm-hmm. City people can't handle that most of the time, but that's not what we're talking about.
Did you have well water when you grew up?
Yeah,
I did too. Did you ever think it was weird or anything?
No.
Boy, oh boy! But you know what I think's weird?
I think it's weird when I turn on the tap in my apartment. It smells like freaking a pool.
Yeah, sometimes I get that chlorine smell. I thought it was weird. Like my mom was a soccer mom for a while, and I played soccer. And like whenever she would have to bring water to the games, we wouldn't bring water from home. She would stop at my aunt's house who lived in the city and fill up water. And I always thought that was weird, and I didn't understand why. I did when I grew up, and I went back and tasted well water after tasting city water for a while. That stuff can taste like shit.
No, I still prefer the taste because I
know what, though, my grandparents' house, I never minded the taste of their well water. I thought it tasted great.
Yeah, think about this too. Well water, it's free. You pay for city water. You know what you're paying for in city water? Fluoride. You're paying for chlorine, fluoride, everyone's leftover prescription drugs. And because, okay, think of how many women are taking estradiol, which is in birth control. Your body doesn't process all that. You pee a lot of that out. None of the processing systems for city water and sewage treatment take out prescription drugs. That shit's just floating around in the water, which means you're drinking prescription drugs. Mm-hmm. They tested, I think it was in Phoenix when they did it. They came out with a report saying, don't drink this water. It's full of all kinds of crap. So we go back. There's side effects, right? Mm-hmm. And you shouldn't mix certain meds, right? Mm-hmm. So what happens if you're on meds and you're drinking a bunch of city water, you're taking hot showers and your pores open up and you absorb all that crap on top of chlorine and fluoride and some of the other chemicals they put in there? What do you think that's doing to us? Do you think that might have a correlation between our poor diet with a bunch of chemicals and preservatives, all the chemicals that we're drinking, the chemicals we're taking in pill form? Do you think all those combined, plus the lack of exercise, the lack of any actual immune system, do you think that might have something to do with cancer or the sicknesses we're breeding or anything else? Do you think maybe instead of, autism, do you think maybe that if we sat down and thought about it, that if we were a little healthier, ate real food, and, maybe practiced our immune system? Because they've actually, remember, they talked about this. I think there was reports that said don't use hand sanitizer too much. Mm-hmm. You first off, you crack your skin, but you don't build any immunity. You make yourself weaker.
Oh, yeah, they'll build. Yeah, the bacteria builds immunity to the hand sanitizer.
That and then you don't get any bacteria at all in you, right. And then you kill everything off and it's ruined. But
right, you kill the good bacteria.
And
too.
Remember, brushing your teeth. Okay, fluoride. It's a poison. It kills everything in contact with it, depending on the dosage. Mm-hmm. So when you brush your teeth, your mouth is full of bacteria, right? Mm-hmm. There's good bacteria and bad bacteria. Your whole body works off of bacteria. You got bacteria in your intestinal tract that is necessary for you to function. So when you brush your teeth, you kill all the bacteria in your mouth.
Right.
So you have to continually. You're now addicted. Your body's addicted to fluoride, because if you stop, the bad bacteria will most definitely outgrow with speed and everything the good bacteria, and that you can apply that same basic principle to everything. So we tie all this crap in together. Everything else, I'm not saying everybody has to be on like the freaking paleo diet, which actually wouldn't be a bad idea. I mean, it's very simple logic there. Paleo diet, good, and we don't have to sit there and eat rice crackers and be a vegan or something, but it's absurd to think that we're doing all this fake crap that we're still not 100% sure of the results of, and we wonder why we have issues. I mean, cancer is caused by irritation. Irritation causes cells to mutate. which is what cancer is, mutated cells, rogue mutated cells. Well, irritation causes cancer. Like sunburn, getting constantly sunburned gives you skin cancer.
Right.
So using sunscreen to prevent your skin
Smoking irritates your lungs, causes lung cancer.
Right. And so all these things, so do you think all these chemicals might be pissing off parts of our body and irritating the living shit out of them maybe? Just a little? You think, all the colon cancer, maybe because we're eating a bunch of over-processed meats with full of chemicals and preservatives, we're drinking things with highly processed, high fructose corn syrup and all kinds of other crap? You think maybe there's a connection there? But you know what? We're going to give people chemo. We're going to destroy a little bit more of their body and go, hey, you'll be fine. You'll be fine, guys. It's simple logic, but nobody sees it that way. They think smoking causes cancer because cigarettes do. No. If you drive in rush hour traffic every day with your windows down, you're getting lung cancer. I have a guy that lived in my neighborhood, and he used to mow. He's been mowing grass almost his entire life. He uses diesel John Deeres that have the exhaust pipe right in front of the rider. So when you're going forward, all that exhaust is hitting your face. So he spent 60 years breathing diesel fumes. And the doctors told him it was because he smoked, he got lung cancer. Plus, he lived on the east side of Indy, which used to be called Cancer Alley because of all the factories downtown. But smoking is the thing we must yell at. All these people talking about putting walking trails and bike paths next to roads where people have big diesel trucks and there's semis and there's buses spewing carbon monoxide and other fumes. Yeah, it's smoking. Let's have a smoking ban, you goddamn pieces of shit. So, yeah, that's kind of a depressing topic, and it wasn't very fun.
Snowden. Oh, my God, they pressed charges.
They want him dead.
He could get the death penalty, yeah.
You know what? This is going to sound bad. I hope they get him, they kill him. I hope they do.
Why? You want him to be a martyr?
No, I want things to get worse. I've always wanted things to get worse. If you did that to somebody like Snowden, nobody would ever dare say a word because of the AP thing and Snowden and everything else and what's been going on in the NSA. The news agencies are saying no one's talking about it anymore. There's no more sources. They're all drying up. Good. Let's get it so horribly bad that people have no choice but to either care or show that they're truly 100% apathetic to everything. And then we can kind of just go around and, know who's who.
You're insane.
Am I?
Well, yeah. But,
am I?
Yes. You don't want it. I don't want it to get worse.
Okay, do you want it to keep dragging on?
All right.
Do you want to be 50 and it be... Okay.
There's two different kinds of getting worse. There's getting worse before it gets better, and there's getting worse to try and make it better. You're talking about forcing it worse or just allowing it to get worse to get it better.
Get it better. How are we going to get it better? Really? We've talked about this before. How is it going to get better?
You don't think it's possible.
It's not. At this stage of the game, do you think we can...
So why encourage it getting worse if it can't get better?
No, it can't get better as it is. We can't take what we have and improve upon it. Think about it. Are you going to defeat constitutional amendments, NSA, FBI, CIA? Like I said last time, are you going to convince all those people to quit their jobs? For what? For what? You can't improve the economy and make it a free market as long as this government exists. I'm not going to wait 50, 60, 70 goddamn years for things to kind of improve. Like I talked to my dad. He's 61 years old.
But
in his 61 year lifespan, nothing about government intrusion in our lives has improved. Not anything has improved. Everything's gotten substantially worse. What makes you think that if it's so freaking bad at the point it is right now, that we could somehow magically improve it?
Because I believe in a threshold. You don't. I think that there's a line that will eventually be crossed where the people will stand up and go, to hell with this, we're done.
The NSA monitoring all their digital communications. Guess that's not a big deal.
That's not the line. I don't know what the line will be.
We're killing hundreds of thousands of people around the world with unjust wars. We're killing our own people.
That's not the line. I don't know what the line will be.
What do you think? Did you think you know where the line will be? When there's no way to turn around and go back. There's no salvation. That's where the line will pop up.
Well,
as it always is with people.
Possibly, but and at that point, I guess you talk about civil war, which is an extremity. But I don't know if that's the point. I don't know where the line is. But I believe that the line's there, and I don't think that you do. I think you just think it's impossible to get back without.
But hold on. There's also the argument of get back to what?
Oh, that's a good point.
Because, I talk to a lot of people like, we got to get back to the Constitution. What, so in another 100 years we can turn around and we can be exactly where we are right now? Really? That's
Maybe.
That's a great plan, yeah.
Well, maybe. Well, it may not be the best plan, but is it the best plan available?
No.
I mean...
Okay, what's from my point of view, to each his own, right? I'm a voluntarist, so I don't care what everybody else wants. Just don't force me to do it too.
Synthetic genes. Not synthetic genes. Genes all around.
Okay, this is a Supreme Court coming
Supreme
out
Court ruling. Molecular pathology et al. Versus myriad genetics. This was a unanimous decision by the Supreme Court, which is on sometimes controversial decisions not that common to hear. This is Judge Clarence Thomas. DNA is the basic tools of scientific and technological work, and patenting them would inhibit future innovation premised upon them. Basically, the Supreme Court said that unless it's a synthetic gene, if it's a naturally occurring gene, you can't patent it. Go.
Which is a huge step, because all those makeup companies and stuff were getting...
You are not talking to the mic.
All those makeup companies were getting women's genes, not their, God bless it. They were, studying breast cancer and everything else, and they were basically patenting and buying up these genes to say that, they own them. So they were holding back cancer research and everything else because they were taking genes that are really inherent in everybody and saying nobody else can touch these without paying us or getting our permission, which is kind of absurd, because if they can take your DNA and your genes and say this is ours, don't they technically own you?
I guess all right, Muser, get over here. Enough beer in the system. He's like, all right, I'll saddle up. Plop down here. We're going to talk about this. This is a topic you had some interest in. John Muser is the treasurer of the Libertarian Party of Marion County, and we were talking about this topic a little bit before we started recording the show, and Muser was like, oh, no, I'm not going to go on the show, although he was very informed and informational in the things he had to say. But I'm assuming there's another beer or two in him now, because when I said his name, he hopped right on over here and said, all right,
I can
let's
smell
do this.
the booze.
Woo!
Holy crap, I'm getting
First
drunk
off, tell us
to you.
about your day-to-day. You went for a jog this morning. Tell us about that.
I went on the Run for Your Lives thing. It was over in Knightstown, Indiana, where they have people dress up as zombies, and you run a 5K, and you are trying to avoid zombies. I died. All my flags were taken, so did not make it, and I got injured a few times. So that was a lot of fun.
What? I want to run from zombies. I'd pass out after about 10. Can I take my bike?
There are obstacles, and you got to go through creeks and all kinds of stuff. So a bike would not work. But anyway, as far as why it was a unanimous decision is because it was obvious from the way patent law works. According to patent law, you cannot patent a fact of nature. And the fact that a gene is just part of nature means it's an unpatentable aspect. So a synthesized gene could be patentable. So if it's a purely synthesized gene, like there's some synthesized life that was created, they created an artificial Ebola. Not Ebola. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, they made a synthesized E. coli. That was it. And that method was patentable, but this case had to do with the breast cancer and the fact that they tried to patent the fact that you had a certain gene sequence that you had a higher likelihood of cancer. They wanted to patent that fact, so they were essentially trying to patent the gene, and the fact that the gene was there, and the process of knowing that that had a connection with higher rates of breast cancer, they wanted you to have to pay a fee in order to make that connection, for any doctor to make that connection. So that's what this case was all about. And they determined that because of patent law says that any fact of nature is unpatentable, they just completely threw it out.
So how'd they get away with doing this in the first place? I mean, if that's a fact of patent law, how'd they get that going in the first place? How'd those companies do that?
Because the USPTO is run by idiots.
So it was basically a error in government oversight in the patent office and everything, saying that, oh, we missed that.
Pretty much, as I understand it.
And so, I mean, they actually did issue patents, these companies holding patents on the genes.
Yeah.
So is this going to have an impact on anything else? I mean, I know we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier, but does this impact anything with Monsanto?
Possibly, because some of the hybrids that Monsanto has are naturally occurring genes, so I'm not sure how that would affect them, but a lot of them are artificially sequenced, so those will probably still be have patent protection involved.
Now, I know Monsanto, because I know farmers, but basically when you buy seed from Monsanto and some of these other companies, actually, is that you basically sign a contract that says you will not reuse seeds, you will not do this, you can only do this, and you basically sign a contract that grants you a good price that you have to do all these different things, and that's kind of what that Monsanto case was all about a little while ago. What was a lot of little things, and that they called it what the Monsanto Protection Act. People were calling it, and they're all full of shit. Yeah. So you're here. We're gonna just go ahead and be done with that subject, because we could talk about that for 300 years and talk about science, and nobody else would understand what the hell we're talking about. Yeah, folks. You know what? I actually do dumb everything down for my listening audience. You're welcome. How do you? We were mentioning. I'm sure you were listening. Talking about the threshold, about what we can do with this country if it's salvageable. What do you think? First off, do you think it's salvageable? And what do you think the threshold will be? What do you think that one thing will be that will cause people to go, hey, cut this shit out?
I've honestly never really thought about it. I do kind of agree with Josh in that I think there is a certain threshold that the American people will tolerate, and then beyond that, things will have to change. I mean, it gets to a point of inevitability where it's got to change, or things will just keep getting worse. So I don't know, though. I don't know. I've not really thought that much about where we're headed in that way.
If it comes to revolution, if it comes to some level of revolution, do you think that it is possible for us to turn around and head back to some level of normalcy, whatever that may be, with a revolution that is not an armed revolution?
That's a good question. I'd like to think so. Armed revolutions don't normally end up well, especially for the ones that foment them. And typically armed revolutions more often lead to dictatorships than democracies, unfortunately. So I would hope that we'd be able to reform things from within and within our current framework. But honestly, I don't know. I'm typically not a doomsday libertarian. I like to hope that things are salvageable.
All right, let me ask you this. You're a libertarian. You're an officer of the Marion County Libertarian Party, as I am. We're not winning many elections, but over the last few years, we are definitely getting more attention. Both big L and small L libertarians are getting a lot more attention. The idea of libertarianism is getting a lot more attention.
And watered down.
We're getting more votes. We're not winning races yet. Many places. We have a few around the country, including a couple here in Indiana. What kind of timeline do you see? How far out is it before the Libertarian Party is, give me two different timelines. First, how long is it until the Libertarian Party is regularly winning small races in communities where it's just not that uncommon for you to see it anymore? And how long out is it when we're winning big races, like maybe full statewide races or federal races?
Well, I started getting involved in the party in about 2005, 2006, and back then I thought that we're just a few years around the corner, and of course there's 2013 now, and I am becoming increasingly cynical, unfortunately, that I don't know if our message is resonating, and I'd like to hope it will, and I like to hope that we'll start getting small races in the next 10 years or so, but that's what I would have said 7 years ago when I first started getting involved. So I would like to hope that would start happening, but I think our biggest influence that we have right now is just starting the conversation to make the other parties talk about our issues and not just completely ramrod over us, and actually have Republicans actually have to think about libertarian issues, because for some reason Republicans tend to think about it a lot more than Democrats do, unfortunately. But,
I mean, I will say that's something that is probably true. I think our first major victory doesn't necessarily come at the ballot box where we are actually winning races as libertarians. Our first major victory comes where there becomes to be a regular noticeable impact in the way that the other parties are crafting their races, because they understand that they have to to get.
Hold on. There's two ways it goes. They've already changed the language. Think of how many people are using libertarianism as a buzzword now.
It's a big buzzword.
Remember, they were calling Paul Ryan a libertarian because he read Ayn Rand. Now,
I agree that.
Now, hold on. You got people like Rand Paul, which people really want to call libertarian, but, he's strong on, militarized border and walls and stuff like that. He's okay with sanctions. He's okay with a couple other things. So he's not necessarily a libertarian. He's libertarian-esque, but, he's the best they got. There's all these other people they want to call libertarian-leaning or whatever, and it's been kind of watered down. Don't you feel that by them doing that, they're... Wait, why do we need a libertarian party and a third party, which is extremely necessary? Why do we need that when we can just steal their message and water it down and make the same promises we always make, but with a libertarian spin, and never keep any of the promises like they never do? I mean, do you think it's worse that instead of winning elections, they're just now talking about libertarianism louder than we are?
No, I think that it's good one way or the other to get the idea at least being discussed. Let the people that are hearing the buzzwords from people maybe like Paul Ryan, let the people that are hearing libertarianism and go, I don't know much about that, let them start looking into it. And
you Google it, and the first 5 sites you're going to get are watered-down versions of it.
Let's do it right now.
I guarantee you go to libertarianism.com.
Go. Top response, libertarianpartylp.org. Second response, libertarianism Wikipedia.
Oh, yeah, because Wikipedia is always great.
We'll come back to that. Let's see what Wikipedia has to say about it. Third website, criticism of libertarianism, Wikipedia. Fourth entry, libertarianism metaphysics, Wikipedia. Fifth entry, left libertarianism, Wikipedia.
So basically, if you don't know anything about libertarianism and you Google it, you see all that. If you skip the party thing, because people are probably going to skip that first one, they probably are. And if they hit that and then they go read the other stuff, they're going to see a bunch of conflicts. They're going to see that other crap. It's going to be this super in-depth shit that nobody understands. And then you see left libertarianism. Anyone that's any kind of brainwashed by the right-left thing that kind of identifies right is going to drop it like a hat.
All right, here we go. Libertarianism, Wikipedia. Libertarianism is a set of related political philosophies that uphold liberty as the highest political end. This includes emphasis on the primacy of individual liberty, political freedom, and voluntary association. It is the antonym of authoritarianism. Libertarians advocate a society with greatly reduced state or no state at all. Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy defines libertarianism as a moral view that agents initially fully own themselves and have certain moral powers to acquire property rights and external things, goes on, blah, 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 blah. Not too horrible of a definition.
The average person has a freshman reading level, if that. I would almost guarantee that the average person, that's about where their intelligence level is. Remember, Mark, I think it's not Mark Small. It's Mark Dice that goes around and tries to sell people gold 1-ounce coins for $25.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
And nobody
can't
does
get anyone to buy. Yeah, have you ever watched these videos on YouTube, Muser?
He does them all.
Yeah, this guy actually walks around and
With a 1 ounce
with
gold
a
coin.
1 ounce gold coin. At first, it was $100, I think, and he brought it down. At first, he would offer to sell it to people, just random people on the beach. Hey, I've got a 1 ounce gold coin here. You willing to buy it for $100? What do you think gold's worth? Blah 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 blah. No one would buy it. No one would think it was worth it. They were like, "Well, do you know how much this is worth?" And they'd be like, "I don't know, $10." And then so he would lower the price, and he would come out one time and he offered it for $50. He got all the way down to $25. Never has someone
And he
buy
goes,
the 1 ounce
we will
gold coin
go
from
over
him."
to this jewelry shop right behind us and, prove to you that's real gold. And no one does it. And he's done, I think, quite a few
He's
of these
done a bunch of
videos.
these, and he's willing. He starts the video off. He's saying, if someone offers to buy it for me, this is a fair transaction. It's going to happen. And no one yet has agreed to buy the gold coin from him because they are so just out of touch.
The thing is, if some stranger walks up and offers to sell you anything, you're going to look at it skeptically. I know how much a 1 ounce gold coin is worth. It's about $1,500 at this point. But if that guy walked up to me on the beach and did that, I'd say, get out of my face, you weirdo.
Well,
Valid point.
Well, he cuts
But
out
he's
a lot of those people,
willing-
but
but he-
a lot
but
of
he is
people
also-
actually converse with him and
Right.
actually talk to him.
Yeah, and he's willing to say, well, we can go someplace where you want to get it authenticated. You want to get proof that it's gold, we'll go right there.
But still, and then
I
you
agree,
go,
though. You'd be like, yeah, whatever. Go
but
the hell away. I'm not going to waste
nobody
my time.
registers that it's 1 ounce gold coin equal $1,500. And there's other videos out there where they, like the talk show hosts and stuff, go around and they talk to random people. And I talk to random people all the time about anything, and nobody understands it. So you Google libertarianism, or you watch Fox News or CNN, especially like the CNN, MSNBC, they use libertarianism, a bad word. Most people my age that aren't in politics think libertarians are evil, vile people, and there's no change in their mind. And if you're not a Republican or Democrat, you're evil, and if you're a Republican, the Democrats are evil, vice versa, the left-right paradigm. So it's something where either we have to get a handle on the message and what libertarianism is, and not let retards like Julia Bergowski or whatever the hell her name is run around and call herself libertarian and say that everything's libertarian standpoints.
I don't mind Borowski. I know you hate her. I don't mind her. I'm agreeing. She's a right wing libertarian. She's one of these convert from within inside, but I don't mind. Her videos are all right.
Yeah. Okay.
Check her out on YouTube if you're listening. Token Libertarian Girl.
Don't give her views.
Make your own opinion. Send us an email or a comment. Let us know what you think about
listen
Borowski.
Listen to my show. Just keep listening.
Token
to this
Libertarian
show.
Girl.
It's awesome.
Muser, are you on Twitter or any kind of social media other than Facebook out there?
Not publicly.
Do you want to plug anything?
Do you want to plug anything?
No, I got nothing to plug.
Get the hell out.
Right. Bye.
Go back on the couch.
Indiana Talks. Thanks to Gary Snyder.
Yeah, thanks for still having us on.
J.A. Featherstone on Twitter. Facebook.com/Josh Featherstone on, of course, Facebook. You are on everything.
I'm on Instagram as, I think, my name, Maya Axton. Let's see here. Just Google Maya Axton, MIAHAKSTON, and you'll find all my profiles. There's not really anything else. There's no one else out there with my name. And I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. Facebook and Twitter are my most active places because all my Facebook posts hit Twitter. So it's like a constant thing where I post probably anywhere between 4 to 20 times a day.
You're all over the place
About
on it.
all kinds of things.
You blow up Facebook sometimes. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, it's sometimes I'll get 30 likes on something and 100 comments. Sometimes I'll get 2. I have a 70 clout score. That's at least special to me, anyways. I think Abdul only has like a 71 clout score. Let's see here. Definitely like us on Facebook. The Uncontrollables. You can find us at theuncontrollables.com. You can also find us under a tab on creatingmaya.com. Find us on iTunes and FeedBurner. We did rebuild the website so that you can find our iTunes and RSS links right there on the front page for the Uncontrollables and for the Creating Maya podcast, which I still am promising to do another episode.
Money,
on.
money, creatingmaya.com. Hit the donate button. Indianatalks.com. Hit the donate button.
I do
we can
have
use your support.
Amazon Associates link off to the right-hand side on the front page of creatingmaya.com. It'll also show up on the Uncontrollables.com. You can go ahead and put that in and do all your shopping through that link, and you can make me money. You can donate money to me.
She needs boobies, real ones.
I need boobs. I need a nose job. I'm an ugly, ugly son of a bitch. And this,
Daughter.
this, it's a unisexual term. Okay, there's a lot of things. But thanks for listening. This was episode 17 of the Uncontrollables.
We'll see you next week.
Yeah, I'm not gonna let that be the end. So I hate you so goddamn much.